So good morning, those who are watching live, and good morning to anyone watching this on record. We are here from Axway today to speak to you about the purposes of reusing what you have. So David and I are both in the commercial role within Axway, but what we want to provide you is a business and technical overview of the capabilities of how we as Axway provide solutions for large organizations to use what they already have in terms of API and API management and API gateways, but also how that creates business value as a goal beyond. So I'm going to take the first few minutes of this session to explain the whys and the whats, and then David is going to take most of the time to explain the hows, and we should have some time at the end of the session to give you any questions and answers that you may have. So hopefully, if my slides are moving.
Yep, looks good.
Perfect. So specific to financial services, building ecosystems and building connectivity across different services is a critical part now of how they will grow business streams. This could also be resonated into retail as well. It's not specifically linked to financial service, but this example is. As time goes on, different lines of business, different silos within the organization will build their own APIs. Different organizations will also require different interconnectivity across different services that they offer. So there'll be different channels, but there'll also be different products, and there'll be different services within those products. And especially in financial services, it's now key to bring in third-party applications and third-party services. And what they might want to do in return for this is create customer loyalty, which helps reduce the amount of churn you have in the customer base. So by making it easier to serve, self-serve in particular, either third parties who are developers or external customers, you can also use this to then enable better ecosystems to be built. But what happens is over time, the APIs are growing and growing and growing exponentially. So in order to stop that propagation of those, businesses will put a stop on the build process, and ultimately the developer, who is highlighted here in blue, has a big grey cloud over his head. Now the grey cloud is actually move everything to cloud services. But the actual truth is the developer is tasked with repeatedly building the same API integration over and over on a point-to-point basis. So for a customer to have loyalty to a business, it's typically better, it's easier for them to do business with them. And that will be the same for a developer. If it's hard to do something, it becomes tiresome and cumbersome and not rewarding. So by reusing what you have and finding those systems across different services, you can actually benefit the business by reducing the amount of time and effort to build them. And as time grows on, new technologies emerge. So if you do that on a point-to-point basis, you have to then create more and more of those integrations to the new technologies that you onboard, which makes things very difficult. There is not one single solution that fits all of these needs. So typically, businesses go about buying different technologies. And that could mean different API gateways as an example, because they serve different purposes, they serve different standards, and they serve different protocols. So from Axway's perspective, what we're trying to do is to solve the challenge of what you already have and what you may need to have in the future. We are therefore helping organizations at scale, large businesses and small, to grow the ecosystems out that they have, but also to enhance the technology stacks that they already utilize and have spent money on. And in rewards for that, by unlocking the potential of those applications and the new technologies, you can unlock the customer data, which is highlighted by the customer locked away behind the prison cell in the bottom corner. They'll become more loyal, they'll give you more information, and you in return can use that information for different things. There was a lot of talk yesterday in some of the sessions about monetization. By monetizing the data that you have, you can actually sell that data to third parties and reward the customer. So the more the customer gives to you, the more you can give back to them, because you can offer them brand loyalty, you can offer them discounts, you can offer them incentives, you can build third-party relationships with providers. So by discovering the APIs that you have, reusing what you've already created, you might find much more easy ways to go to market and create new business propositions. And then the final challenge typically is about the flexibility and scale. So once you build it once and a new emerging technology comes, or if a new standard or protocol is issued, you need to adapt to those changes. So by making the system reusable and having a purpose, it's easy to grow at scale, because actually the changes are more business process as opposed to technical changes. And specific to financial services, this is a deliberately complicated slide, But on the left-hand side where it says establish customer relationship, these are all the processes that the banks have to go through in the first stage. So the prospecting, the marketing, customer application, filling in forms, putting that data from those forms into the back-end application, so the CRMs, the ERPs, etc. And then there's a KYC process, know your customer, which typically calls out to a company like Experian. So there's another integration to be built there. And then you establish the product. So actually, is it a mortgage? Is it a loan? Is it a credit card application? And each of those processes will be different. And as you can see over time, there are many, many crossing of integrations that overlap and become repeatable. But businesses still build these on a point-to-point basis. By making it a hub and spoke model, so actually the service is orchestrated from the middle and all of those points come to the same point, then it grows the business value, because actually you can just keep adding to the wheel, to the hub, and making it easier. And then you have to repeat that across all the channels. So you've got the customer contact center, you've got a physical business, you've got telco, you've got mobile, you've got web, you've got browser potentially, and AI and machine learning in the future. So by enabling all those services to be reusable, it brings potential, and that's the business opportunity to do things differently, to serve your customers in new and emerging ways, as well as supporting those who still do things in a more legacy way. And then on the right side, it's the maintaining of the customer. So actually, once you've gone through all this process, if you start offering them products and services that are not useful to them, it's not rewarding. If they've just taken out a mortgage or a credit card, why would you offer them the same product 2 weeks later? Why would you spend marketing budget on that? So actually, by enabling the APIs to be reusable, to propagate the data into different CRMs and different applications, the customer can actually use that in a different way. And again, all this information is manually keyed across all the different applications, which takes time, effort, and is a physical drain on resource, so therefore costs money. But what you should be looking to do is move towards a vision of the future. So everyone refers to the Amazon model. You know where you are in the process. Amazon knows a lot about your preferences. So it's an instant service. You know what you get. Transparency is the Uber model. You know where the driver is. You know how he will be collecting your work from and what his car is. The Netflix model, it's personalized. You feel you know what you're getting. They know what you like to watch, and they will offer you different things that reward you based on your interest. And then the ubiquitous model is actually you feel trusted and known across all the services and devices you use. So by using APIs to build a better ecosystem, you create value for your business and trust for your customers. So the core section in the middle should be considered as the Axway layer. So what we're actually doing is enabling all of this back-end legacy and current process to be enabled into a digital-first model, which then serves the seamless customer experience at the top end. And in this case, the customer could be an external developer, it could be an internal developer, or it could be an end user customer. So there are many different value points to be had by sorting out this legacy gray stuff and making it into a more mobile, agile service at the front end. So the challenges in making this happen is who are you serving, really? So the consideration is, are you doing this to serve the customers, the third parties, the internal developers? But the reality is they're all customers. They all add value to you somewhere in the process. So by not serving them, there's a missed opportunity. So that's the core decision in how you think about these things. And David's going to explore more of this in the session about actually how you can create a marketplace or a catalog that enables these people to come and self-serve and do business with you. And then slightly further down, when you look into the channels will continue to grow over time. So we're now in the kind of open banking world, but that doesn't mean it's a different channel. It should be treated as the same channel, just through using different protocols to access it. And then if you go down to the very bottom, you have the directories, the legacy, the LDAPs, where you need to get the information from L2 and put that information in the correct format, which is what APIs serve, but they do not serve it in a unified way. So once you have cataloged all the data that you're trying to resolve, the value is that you can then use that data in different ways. So if a different application requires a street name and a different application requires a road name, it's just as simple as changing that in a config. But actually then across multiple applications in different geographies, there's different value chains to be had by changing that data format and the value the data output provides. So there's lots of value to be had by changing how you integrate to different services, even if there are existing technologies. So I've talked about the value in doing it, but actually it's hard. It's not easy. So the strategy really is to look at what the priorities are. That there's typically something known as the 80-20 rule, which is a very common term used about hitting the priorities. But actually, it's building things that add value. And by wasting energy by building point to point, you create technical debt. By making things more seamless and agile, what you can actually do is build and destroy if it's not working. So you're actually building services that you can try. If they don't succeed, you can realize from the data why that is, and then build better value from the next service that you build. But you've not spent as much effort building the integrations to test that, because the integrations are seamless now. And then by expanding that into the connection and consumption model, again, you're adding KPIs around this. So you actually can test the metrics as to what's working, how people are using it, is it adding value to them, and then again, continue to enhance or build those products. And then the digital complexities is the piece that probably resonates the most with this audience, is really how you manage the different teams, how you manage the different applications, how you prioritize and focus. And over time, that grows. So actually, it probably starts off with a 1 or 2 person in a team or multiple dev teams, and it continues to grow and grow and grow and grow and becomes very complicated over time. And what happens, particularly in siloed businesses, is that each of these teams is building essentially the same integrations to the same applications, but in silos. So therefore, they're wasting effort. If someone has already built this integration, it adds value to use what somebody else has built. If it doesn't quite fit the specification you need, you can change that, but you don't need to build again and again to solve the same problem. So effectively, you create a catalog that someone can go to within the internal development team and build that. And this is not about reducing the amount of developers. It's about improving what the developers can do with information that they should already have access to because somebody's already built it previously. And again, this is about how you get to that stage. So you need to consider where you are in the journey. Are you in a silo? Are you an internal implementation process? So are you doing this on a project by project basis, or are you looking at this at a strategic level? Is your goal to bring in external partners to build this for you, or to use the applications that they've built and just use their APIs that they're exposing? Can you then extend that to a business model where you actually try to bring in extra value and then monetize the data that you have? And then ultimately the goal is open everything. So open banking, open finance, embedded finance. You're trying to serve the customers that you have and serve the third-party services that they use as well. So by doing this in a cohesive way, you can still look at each of these columns individually, but ultimately look at them as a stepping stone to get to a complete goal. And then really what the objective of everything is that you're trying to stay relevant, to grow your business, to bring in new opportunities. So you're trying to find new revenue streams. That might be through partnering. That might be through sharing the data you have. It might be by charging customers for the data that you have to allow them to onboard to different external services. You can launch new products, so you can actually personalize or hyper-personalize the offering by using the API data from various third-party applications to look at how the customer behavior works, how the data is used to make decisions on the new product that you should launch and where it's going to have the most impact to your customer base. And then the final one is the cost efficiency. So in trying to build new services, there's a budget allocated to those processes, but it costs money to build everything. So actually by looking at what you can reuse, what you can already have, you can actually then look at monetization of this from a different perspective, that you're saving the business money. So you can create top line revenue efficiency by launching new services, but you can save money by saving your team's effort on what they build. So in the next 30 to 40 minutes, David's going to talk through that specifically now, and I'll hand over to David to walk you through how Axway can help your business to achieve most of these columns that you've seen today. Thank you.
Well, thank you ever so much, Anthony. That was very good. We've got a really nice big audience now. We've shot past the 20 members. I guess that includes us. But yeah, thanks everybody. So Anthony's just given you a very good start on what we're trying to do. Now I'm going to show you a little bit more under the hood how we're actually achieving some of these things at Axway. So I'm going to start off with just a couple of slides, but there's very few slides, and then we're going to go into a live demo so you can actually start to see how this actually works in the real universe. So first of all, I'm just going to share. You'll bear with me 1 second. Now, where was that button? Just down the bottom. There we are. Okay. Entire screen. So, Anthony, would you be kind? Oh, yeah, that looks good. I think we can see it. So, are we in presentation mode?
Yes.
Fantastic. Okay, thank you. Right. So, essentially, discoverability, reusability, and the creation of API ecosystems. How are we actually going to do this? So, what I want to do is give you an idea. First of all, just a quick recap on the problem statement, and then I'm going to show you how it's going to be solved. So essentially, we have quite a large number of product areas which all fit together to create this ecosystem. And these aren't products that are designed for a greenfield site necessarily. These are products that are designed to take the API investments you've already made and then join them all together harmoniously. So the idea is we're not looking for vendors who don't have an API management platform already. We're looking for those that do. That's a key differentiator between a lot of people who are selling. There's no rip and replace in Axway. It's an augmentation pitch, full stop. So you can see here we have quite a few different demos which we love to show you all. We can't show you all today because if you add all these minutes up, they're going to be more than Anthony will allow me to talk for. But yeah, we're going to do the first few, which is the main ones, the API ecosystem. Then we're going to show you our unified catalog, which you won't know what that is yet, but you will understand it by the time we've finished. And then multi-gateway. That's something, again, which is we're going to reuse all of your existing API investments and bring them together. And then I think we're going to, integration builder we probably won't do, but we're going to jump onto API builder, which is just to show you how you can create a new API from legacy data sources, such as an old school database, a relational database. So yeah, I think we're going to do 1, 2, 3, and 5, given the time we have. We'll see how we get on. But of course, all of these other demos form part of the entire ecosystem together. And so you're welcome to come and see us outside of this show to see the full works. So an Axway API ecosystem, what on earth is that? We're talking about API ecosystems, and it's clearly a buzzword that gets thrown around. And in fact, the name of this talk used API ecosystem. And yeah, so it brings people in, but what on earth is it? So essentially, what is the API ecosystem? Many organizations, and I guess everybody who's on this bridge at the moment, is going to know about API products, platforms, use APIs extensively in their business, and have made probably several investments with different vendors for API products. So we know that we have API mature organizations that have been using APIs for a number of years, spend a lot of money on them, and have made significant investments and continue to do so. There's also, the API strategy, which is, again, another great buzzword or pair of buzzwords. The API strategy is typically, you've heard of all the magic words like unlock data silos and make your business more agile and flexible and tying into digital transformation. So essentially, we've got these really cool buzzwords, and we're doing things in all of our organizations to actually address these. But are we creating one harmonious API program across the organization? Because very quickly, by following the API strategy and getting to where we think we're API mature, even if we achieve those, we end up with, and here's the little list of bullets, a multi-vendor. You might have, for example, API gateways from cloud native stuff like AWS and Azure. You might have the Axway API gateway. You might even have some of the smaller independent guys like Kong, for example. So, or even all of the above in different teams within your organization who don't really talk to each other that much. So yeah, multi-vendor, multi-gateway, multi-team, and multi-silo. Because of course, with all the best will in the world, in any large organization, silos will start to form. One team could be developing against the Azure gateway because a strategic decision was taken. We're going to deploy in Azure. And therefore, look, there's an API gateway that comes cloud native inside Azure. We'll go with that. That's convenient because all our other stuff's in Azure. Another team has got some on-prem API gateways from another vendor, and you can see how very, very quickly you can end up with your API maturity being something which is essentially, yeah, these four bullets. So yeah, what is the solution to this? Well, it's certainly not to rip and replace and to then force the business to align and centralize to a single vendor going forward. That would be exceptionally expensive and very, very difficult. And all you're doing is locking yourself into one vendor and losing the ability to be flexible. So the API ecosystem, as Axway understands this concept and is providing this concept and a solution to it, is that we reuse everything you've already got. We reuse those Azure gateways, those Kong gateways, and we bring them together in such a fashion that we can actually put them all into a single control plane. So APIs on Azure, APIs on on Apigee, APIs on Kong, APIs on Axway's own API gateway, they will all appear in a single catalog, which is effectively, the unified catalog is effectively a developer portal, but it's a developer portal across all your API platforms. So suddenly you can go to one place and see all the APIs across the entire organization. Not only can you see them, you can then subscribe to them, all with a single subscription flow, rather than having to log on to 5 different platforms and create API keys or OAuth credentials for all these different, because of course the subscription process is proprietary on each of the various developer portals for each of those API platforms. So suddenly you've got this single place where you can look at APIs, search them, filter them, tag them, promote them, and then subscribe to them, consume them. And when you're consuming them, all of those data plane logs from all the API requests will again all be collected together in a single pane of glass control plane. And this means that whether you're using, let's say we're going to show you a cheese API in a few seconds, but let's say your cheese API, somebody writes a cheese API and deploys it onto their Azure cloud native gateway, and other people in the organization start using it, they get some traffic. Then somebody else writes a cheese API, maybe it's similar, maybe it's different, maybe it's a newer version of the other one, and then they deploy it on their API gateway, which is, for example, the Axway gateway, and they're both being used by the business, traffic is flying through them, and then someone further up the business says, okay, well, you've got the, how many cheese APIs do we have in production at the moment? Can we compare them? Which one's the best performance? Which one throws back the most errors? Which one has the most traffic hitting it? Those objective comparisons suddenly become possible at the business level. So we've gone from this fractured silo of different API platforms to a single coherent pane of glass at the top, which not only gives you the ability to consolidate all of your APIs together and the resources across the company, but it gives you that observability and visibility. So with all that fun, what we're going to do is cut to a little bit of a live demo, which I did promise. And here we go. Let's just see who's on. So we're doing great. So on the left, not a very exciting screen. Okay, this is typical API manager type screen. On the right is another typical API manager type screen. The difference is this one's Microsoft Azure. So let's click on APIs. And again, not the most exciting thing to see, but you can see here we've got some APIs running on our cloud native Azure platform. And so one set of developers and one set of API consumers within our business organization are using this Azure because they like it, and they've got other stuff in Azure. And there was a cloud migration project a couple of years ago, perhaps, that said, let's put all sorts of stuff in Azure and reduce our dependency on our own data centers. On the left, we've got the Axway API Manager, which is our own product. And you can see in here that we've got the API catalog. There's a whole bunch of APIs in here, in the same way as there's a whole bunch of APIs in here. Similarly, we can say, okay, well, who's consuming those APIs? We can click on subscriptions, and you can see there's a few subscriptions there. And the equivalent to that in Axway is going to be, if we look at applications, for example, choose application, we can see there's one API key created for this. So again, and what you can very quickly see is that the same concepts exist in every single vendor's API gateway solutions, but everything's done differently. They're all proprietary solutions, whether it's going to be Azure, whether it's going to be Amazon, Apigee, Axway, or any other people that are at this show. All right, so they've all got different ways of achieving a similar thing. So what we really want to do is, we've seen our list of APIs, we've seen the subscriptions. So now we need a way of having a high-level control plane above these two platforms, which makes everything coherent and gives us the same experience subscribing to and browsing through an Azure hosted API as with an API hosted on Axway. So let's have a look at that then. How might we do that? This is what we call Axway Amplify. Now, Axway Amplify is that product. It's the high-level control plane that sits above every other vendor's API management solution and unites everything together. So that sounds like a bold claim. So let's have a little look inside. So on the right-hand side, I'm going to log in as an administrator, which means we can see that there's an RBAC permissions model, so you can decide who can see what to a very granular level. But just for the purposes of simplicity, there's loads of APIs in here. So basically, we can see pretty much all the APIs from all the platforms, and there's pages and pages of them. In fact, I think we've hit a new record on our demo platform for the number of APIs. We've got some really fun ones here. All of these work, but what you'll notice is these APIs don't all come from the same place. This one looks like it comes from an Azure gateway. This one looks like it comes from an Axway gateway. And yeah, furthermore, there's, even if you scroll down far enough, going to be some APIs from platforms other than that. So we've got all of our APIs across the business from all these different platforms in one place. On the left, we're going to log in as an API user. So here is a different login to the same platform, but with someone from an operations team who might wish to consume APIs. And when they come in, you can see a different view. They've only actually got 4 APIs visible from the grand catalog of a huge number. And that's because, again, the RBAC permissions model, and they've had these APIs specifically shared with them. But they do have, there's one Cheese API version 2 which has come from an Azure gateway, and another Cheese API here, which has come from an Axway gateway. So we've given them the ability to browse and consume those from the overall grand catalog. And before we show you how the subscription is also unified, let's just have a little look at the multi-gateway story. So this little tab here, topology, which is a mysteriously named tab, but topology, it conjures up all sorts of images. But what does it actually mean? Well, this is all our API platforms that we're sitting above with our high-level control plane. Looks like there's a Kong gateway, which has got 3 APIs on it. There's an Axway gateway, which has got 35 APIs on it. That's the one we showed you a moment ago. There's an Azure API gateway with 5 APIs. That's this one here, which we logged into just a moment ago. There we are. There's the APIs there. And we have also, an Amazon AWS gateway. Then an Apigee gateway, which is hosted on Google, and Axway Cloud Services, which is probably out of scope for this demo. But the idea is you can see that each of these platforms is not managed, but effectively sat above with a high-level control plane. And there's 2 key concepts of what Amplify, our high-level control plane platform, is actually doing with each of these sub-vendors. There's discoverability, and discoverability, let's click on, for example, this Azure one. And you'll see here, there's 2 agents that run for each of these API managers, third-party products. Discovery agent, which basically manages what APIs are available on this platform. Let's automatically discover them, add them to our catalog, and also manages the subscription flow, so that all the very different subscription processes for each of these platforms are abstracted to a single, simple, coherent, configurable subscription process on Amplify. So that's what the discovery agent does. finding APIs and allowing them to be subscribed and consumed. And then the other agent is a traceability agent, and that gathers the logs, the data plane logs. And that is particularly important for the business insights, which we'll come to a bit later with our API observer. So each of these environments represents an API manager that is sat somewhere in our business. It could be in a public cloud, private cloud, it could be on-prem, it could be anywhere, doesn't matter. The point is we're bringing all of these different platforms from different vendors with different stakeholder teams, different people using them, different people working on them. We're bringing them all into one place. So you can already see, oh, that's interesting, because perhaps, now we've done this, where can we go with this next? It looks like, and you've probably spotted this already, there's quite a few cheese APIs knocking around from different places and different versions. So this is just to give you an idea of how the fragmentation can occur in the business and how effort can be duplicated. And this is tying into Anthony's point a little earlier. You're going to get all sorts of, inefficiencies is a polite word for it in your business from that, which we want to try and avoid. So rationalize, now you've got them all in one place, rationalization can start to happen. And this chap on the left here, our developer, he or she can now see Cheese API and Cheese API v2. Okay, well, one's on Axway platform. The developer doesn't care about that because they're just consuming an API from the catalog. They don't have to care which API manager it sits on. But they're in brackets just to help us see what's going on. So you can subscribe to this. So let's have a look at the Axway hosted one. This looks nice. It's got a Cheese API with various different methods. So if we want to actually use it, we'll need, in this case, an API key, it looks like. So what we'll do is subscribe to this API, and we can just call this my cheese subscription, and this is the Axway one, Axway gateway and cheese application. That's the subscription model of the underlying Axway gateway taken care of. So we're going to request access to that. Okay, that looks good. And at the same time, because we're also interested, we want to compare these two APIs. So we're subscribing to that. Let's also subscribe to the other Cheese API, which is living on Microsoft Azure. Okay, slightly less exciting documentation there, but nevertheless, the methods look okay. So let's subscribe to that as well, and we'll call that my cheese sub Azure, and we'll just have this the Azure cheese app. So off we go. Okay, so now what we've got here is, let's go back to our administrator on the right, and you can see in the subscriptions tab, we have got the Azure one has been approved automatically because it's been set up to do so, whereas the Axway one has been set to be manually approved. So let's approve that, and this is of course all configurable. As to what these actual subscription flows are like, so there's a very high level of configurability there. Okay, so this looks okay. So now we seem to be subscribing quite happily. It looks like the Azure one is complete. So if we go back to our catalog, we can now see that the Azure one is subscribed, and it also looks like the other one's subscribed as well. So we should be able to use this this API now, and our subscription information should have been sent to us. Again, there's many different ways. Let's see if we've received it. Here we go. Yep. So we've got a subscription notification. Email is used for the purposes of this particular demo. So yeah, it looks like we subscribed to the Azure successfully at the back end. We've been given a nice, easy to remember API key. And if we go back to our back end system, which is actually the Azure Cloud Gateway, and have a look at subscriptions, there you go. You'll see the Azure Cheese app, and that is the new subscription that was created by Amplify. So with no interaction at all directly with this Azure platform, it's all been abstracted away, and the subscription has been handled by Amplify at the high level control plane. So that's our subscription there. So that means we can now, in theory, we can actually start using that API directly. Here we go. Now the other ones come through now. We can see we're also subscribed, and we've got a different API key from this time the Cheese API on our Axway platform. So we've subscribed to the two different APIs. We've had our credentials sent back to us. And similarly, whereas we saw that the Azure platform been updated and a new subscriptions created to that API, credentials have been furnished towards us. We can also see, if we go back, now let me see which of the screens it is. There it is. If we refresh our subscriptions in our applications here, we should see a new API key has been created in the Axway API manager for that subscription as well. All automated without having to have all that. You can already see how annoying it is having to log into two different API managers at the back end. So I think this demo shows rather well just how annoying that is. Here we go. So in the Cheese application, there you go. You can now see that there's another API key there which has just been created. So yeah, these subscriptions have been automatically created at the back end to look. So all this complexity and irritating clicking and poking with the mouse have been removed. And basically, email is an example. We can also integrate with Teams for another example to provide the keys. So there's many different ways of actually furnishing you with these keys. But the idea is that now, if we copy our, let's say, our Cheese API, then we're in a position where we can straight away authorize this API and start using it. So we're subscribed, and we're now consuming those two APIs. So if we were to try and, yeah, let's actually try and hit this one. This is the Azure one. And let's try it out. So there we go. So I'm just getting the curl command here. So it's generating, this is effectively quite a nice developer portal area. You get lots of different code, but let's just use the curl command here. So this is how we're going to hit our API platform. We'll put in our API key, and let's go back, and this was the Azure one. Yeah, that is the correct one. I don't want to mix them up. So we're going to put in our Azure API key. Okay, that looks good. And here we go. Now we've got the command we need to actually hit that API. So using the developer portal functionality in Amplify, rather than, again, one of the individual developer portals relating to Azure or to our own Axway solutions. Let's see what we got. So we'll open up a new shell, and here we go. This one looks good for our purposes, and let's try that curl command. Okay, great. We've got some JSON back. We've hit the Wensleydale, and we've got back some interesting data about that. Not a very visual way of doing it, I must admit. Would have looked nicer in a browser where this JSON was prettified. But essentially, you can see the API is working great, and our subscription is valid. So that's really good news. Same is, of course, going to be true. In fact, let's hit that with a little bit more traffic, and try some of the other cheeses. Let's try cheddar. Okay, lovely. Yeah. So the reason I'm hitting this a few times is just generate a bit of traffic, so that, because you've seen the benefits of the discovery agent, which is the bringing all the APIs together and allowing and unifying the subscription and making the developer experience so much cleaner. But also, all of these data plane logs are going to eventually end up inside our API observer, which is the next piece of the demo. What's the time? 11:19. So yeah, we've got another. Is it 11:30 is the hard stop, Anthony?
Yes.
Okay, brilliant. So we're doing fine. So that we're just going to show. So now we've had some fun with the Cheese V2 API on Azure. We've hit some traffic, and let's see if we can see that traffic. So we're going to our API observer, and yeah, I don't think it's come through yet. But the idea is that we are going to, see our traffic in the API Observer. So that should start to come in fairly quickly. And similarly, we can just make sure that our API manager here, the Axway API manager, is also going to work. So let's check our subscription is actually working. So we'll authorize that. Again, we'll need our API key, which we were given. So let's go back here and subscription removal. Okay, which one was? Oh, that was the Azure one. Here we go. This is the one from our Axway API gateway. So we'll authorize that. Okay, looks good. And then we can start trying that out. Okay, and you can see it's already working within this dev portal. We're already hitting traffic already. Here's our curl command, and if we copy that and just try it in the next environment, we'll see the same thing. All looking good. Yeah, Wednesday's working. Let's try Gouda. Yeah, all looks good. So now you can see we've subscribed and we're consuming these two APIs. And eventually, once the log should start filtering in fairly quickly, but in the absence of that, depends on the polling interval. I think we're set to 15 minutes, which is not ideal for a demo. I should probably set it to, for production, 15-minute polling interval would be perfect. But for a demo, you want 1 minute polling. But the idea is that you can then look at the different APIs you've got, and then drill down, start to look at the HTTP transactions, and then seeing some live stats for, and then you could, for example, do a side-by-side demo and have on the left half of the screen, you could compare the Cheese API with the Axway gateway. On the right-hand side of the screen, you could look at the Azure gateway, the Cheese API, and you could see how much traffic, when it was being used the most, how many errors there were, and also some of the performance figures. So yeah, the idea of API Observer is to give you business level insights on those APIs. So that, I think, gives you hopefully a good idea as to how the unified catalog works. And the developer on the left, in this case, the developer was specifically asked to compare these two APIs, and we called out specifically that they were on different gateways from different vendors. But it doesn't actually have to be that way. You could have, you don't have to have these in brackets text reminding us of where the APIs have come from. Once you've done your optimization and you've chosen which Cheese API is the one you want to move on with, and then maybe got rid of some of the inferior of the two, kept the best one, or rationalized somehow so that you're now down to like one approved Cheese API for the entire business. That means you're then ready to take one out and start to clean this catalog up, so that you can only show the preferred business options based on those insights you've got from the API Observer and strategic decisions have been taken. So already you're starting to see that things are getting cleaned up. The API strategy in quotes that we've talked about is suddenly becoming a lot tighter, a lot more focused. Reusability, which is a word we talk about, is actually happening, because everyone is going to start using, let's say we settle on this one here, V2 of the API, and we take this one out of the catalog, then any new developers that want to access cheese information in the business and subscribe to it are going to be directed just to the company's preferred API. So we're moving towards a much better world, and certainly a much cheaper and a less fractured world. So cool. So what we'll do then, just to wrap up, is we're going to shut down. Let's just terminate those subscriptions, which we can do back in our subscription section. So we'll unsubscribe to those just so we've cleaned our universe up. There we go. So while that's busy unsubscribing, and I'll just check to see if there's any finishing off we need to do here. At the administrator level, we'll just complete that unsubscription there. So that means that we're now desubscribing from those APIs, which of course is the inverse of the subscription process. And those credentials that were created in these remote platforms, these API managers, are going to need to be taken away. So that one should be taken away fairly shortly. Once those subscriptions have finished, unsubscribes are finished, and that should leave us back to how we were before. So that is just an idea of how Axway can solve those problems of multiple API vendors into across your organization and bring them all together. But that's only one piece of the ecosystem story. If we go back to our little agenda here, which of course we can't show all of it today, but we've covered 1, 2, and 3, and these are the pieces which bring all the different API investments you've already got together. But there's more to the ecosystem. There's questions such as, how do you build flexible integrations? You might want to integrate Salesforce or pull some data from your Salesforce SaaS account, for example. How do you do that quickly and easily without writing any code, or with writing the minimum of code in a low code, no code environment? That's Integration Builder, vital piece of the ecosystem, because it runs an iPaaS. So you don't have to worry about deploying it locally, and you don't have to worry about where you're going to put your staging environment, where you're going to put your production environment. Do you have to rent an EC2 machine in AWS? None of that. It's all iPaaS based. So this is your plumbing, and that's the really good word to understand that. So the plumbing part, which we have, is also a really important piece of the API ecosystem. Then what about if you want to build a new API from zero, and you're not an API developer and you don't know anything about APIs really? That sounds like a really stupid problem statement, but it's actually a very common one. You might say, okay, well, we've got this really great system, a 20-year-old Oracle-based system, which has got a minefield of great data on, I don't know, pet food and cats and dogs or whatever. And we'd love to enable that, API enable that, and let other areas of the business start using it. API Builder is a specific tool for that exact purpose. You can create a brand new API from, let's say, legacy database table in a matter of minutes. So that's a key piece. On the design side and on the developer side is we focused on consuming existing APIs in the first 3 bullets, but building a brand new API. And this would be a demo which I would then move on to had we the time. But I think we've only got 3 minutes left for Q&A. Is that correct, Anthony?
That is correct.
Okay, yeah. Right, well, I'll stop blurbing then. But so the idea is that each of these different pieces of the puzzle all come together to form the API ecosystem. And an API ecosystem means that you will then have one coherent API strategy across your business, one place for everything, and everyone will be working in harmony. And that's the pitch. So we've got 2 minutes for questions before we get cut off, or anything else you'd like to say, Anthony, or any questions? We'd be delighted.
Nothing for me. Shameless plug for Liad's session at 1:10 UK time this afternoon for how to unleash the potential of your API program. Both David and I are available either directly here or on the marketplace, or the partner village, sorry, where our stall is, if you want to come and chat with us. But yeah, happy to answer any questions live. But you did miss an opportunity to tell a joke, David.
Well, you've got 2 minutes, so over to you.
What's the best way to handle a dangerous cheese API?
Well, it depends on the icon, really.
Kafili is the answer.
Kafili, yeah.
Sorry. Anyway,
very good.
So we are just about to wrap up. So if there are any questions from anyone, please feel free to reach out to us directly. And I think you can reach us in the chat session here as well.
Yeah. I mean, if nothing now, we'll be here all day. There's 6 hours and 11 minutes left of API days. So yeah, we'll be sat around in the foyer. So ping us.
Thank you all for your time.